Hey guys, how's it going? Blake here with Easy Tech, and today guys, I'm very excited. I've finally got my PC here. Now you guys can see I have a bunch of parts. It's not a full PC yet. For those of you who might have seen a couple videos on my channel about this before, I intended to do a whole series of all the parts, but unfortunately every time I would go to buy a couple parts, some things would change in my build. I made the mistake of constantly making those changes, and then a few months ago, after the Ryzen 7000 series came out, I decided to go ahead and just make a bunch of purchases. I bought the case, I bought the chip, I already had some of the storage and stuff, and I bought some of the parts. And then recently I bought the power supply, which you'll see in the back in a moment, and the motherboard, and now here we are ready to go. Now with that out of the way guys, let's get into the build. Now I will apologize for the setup, of course. You know, I got this whole tablecloth. This table doesn't look too good, so I'm trying to keep the colors on it consistent to one. Also, this will make it easy for any parts to be able to find. I may do some building here and here, depending on what the build is, to make sure I can see them. So that out of the way guys, let's get into actually unboxing these parts and putting it together. Now, of course, this will not be I will probably do some skipping around as I'm building the video. You guys don't want to see every aspect of me opening up everything and moving around. So we'll go ahead and get there. Got a bunch of stuff here that we no longer need. So the chip that I'm going with is a Ryzen 9 7900X. Now, the reason for doing so, again, this isn't mainly, this PC is going to be used for a bunch of other stuff. My current job, I've been beginning to do some 3D modeling, which is something I'd like to do occasionally in free time. I'd like to eventually get a 3D printer or something and be able to do some of these programs at home. I also used to mess with Blender a lot. I would like to get a better PC to do that. Maybe make some new intros for my channel and everything for both my gaming one and this one as well. And I'm sure there is a very, very good reason. I'm curious of why all of this, why this huge box. And honestly, guys, I'm not sure if there's much to it. You know, that's just one huge block to make this big box. Don't get me wrong. It makes the box extremely sturdy. It's really awesome. Installation instructions, warranty, and everything else. And there it is, guys. It is the, like I said before, the Ryzen 7900X. I kind of went big to go home in this. Now, at the time I bought this chip, it was roughly around $530. It was on sale. It was right after it launched. And by the time I bought the board and everything, you could find these for almost $400. And the 7950s were coming up to about $550, a little under. Okay, so we have the triangle on the board, and we have the triangle here as well. Going to very, very gently. And again, it is keyed on the top and the bottom just to this side. So hopefully, okay, so I put it on, I'm not moving it. It lined up, filling perfectly. So now I should apply pressure. That was a lot more tension than I expected. But it lined up. Everything seems to be pretty well lined up. I don't want to take it back off just to double check. I really hope it's well. I mean, because there's no room for this thing to move. I'm going to take it back off. I don't want to do this. I'm a very overly cautious person. Yes, there is no additional spot. I hope I didn't just screw it up doing that. This part does pop off. Now, from what I understand, if you want to RMA, you want to keep this. So I'm going to put this back right here. And I'll place this off to the side. And I'll place this in here. And we will put that back into the, actually I'll slide this into this drawer for now, so it doesn't get lost. Not crush it in the drawer, so it doesn't get lost or anything. So guys, step one, we got it done. The CPU, the motherboard's there, the CPU is installed. So next, I believe we have RAM. Okay guys, so looking at the manual, the two recommended slots are actually the A2 and the V2 slots. I actually expected it to be the A1 and the V1 when I looked into this stuff ahead of time. This is why it's very good and very important to check. Now, these are the new DDR5s, which are required by the new AMD platform. That was one of the reasons for waiting as well. I wasted a couple $100 buying some DDR4 3600 megahertz RAM. So this should be 2 and 2. I'm looking on the silk screen trying to see the label for the A and B. I do not see A1 or B1 labeled. Okay, so it's right above. So this is A2. This is B2. And it does say on here, it does say first. Now these slots, I just set the RAM down on the board. There it is. And judging by this, okay, that's why you always look. Everything lines up. Snaps into place. And honestly, with the box giving a little, that was actually make me a little nervous because the box began to give. So I'm going to move this a little closer to the edge. Hopefully that side will give a little more. I should have done the further dim than the closer one, but as long as the label matches up, it snapped in, we're good. I'm not going to wiggle it or nothing because that's kind of the first thought that comes to mind, which is a very, very, very bad thing to do. So the RAM is down. That's one more thing. So we're really working our way through this. Go ahead and just throw a lot of this crap to the side, and I'll clean the rest of it up later. I'm actually going to have to do some cleaning. I need to get myself a sticker book, guys. I've seen that some people who do lots of builds actually keep like a little sticker book type of thing for all these stickers, like the G Skill that's in here, and the ASRock that's in there as well. So now that we've got the RAM on, what's the next thing we need? We need to get the M.2s on, of course. Now, what I have for the M.2s is I have 2 of the Samsung 970 EVOs. The reason I have 2 is originally when this build was happening, for those of you who have seen my gaming channel, one of my best videos has over 100,000 views. That is actually a buddy of mine. We began the channel together, and we really want to get back into the gaming channel, and I want to do the tech channel here some more. So we need some better PCs. The ones we had no longer ran. Mine was an old work PC that barely ran. I have a new one now, but it is a work PC as well. Does not technically belong to me, even though I am allowed to use it. And this gives a more permanent option to be able to do this. I'll be able to record easier. I'll be able to stream a lot easier with the better performance I have here. Wow, that thing's tiny. And you look and you think you can grab it. It's got this plastic cover over it, which is really good. So what I was saying, the reason for the 2 SSDs was both my PC and his PC were both supposed to be built at one time. But then we ran into an issue and only one computer can be built for now. So that's another reason I want the channel to grow. It'll give the ability to increase the... if we can get an income coming on this channel, and then we will be able to get a second PC built. We'll be able to kick out more videos on the gaming side. So I have the DRAM there. Let's go ahead and get my screwdriver out. Now I will say I kind of do wish that we had a set. I do wish I had a iFixit kit. That was something I was hoping to get my hands on before now. Did not get a chance to purchase one when I wanted to. So we're going to take this heatsink off. That's probably way too big. It is. What if this smaller one will fit in there? Now the Ryzen 9 7000 chips are designed to run at about 95C. Unfortunately, my office here gets very hot as it is. So having something that's designed to run 95C is going to be a little brutal at times. Okay. Alright. So we're going to go ahead and install the flash drive. I'm sorry, not the flash drive, the M.2. Alright, so that's snapped in now. So So normally you have the screw that'll go down here, but there is a heat sink, so we'll just have to replace the heat sink. I kind of wish that I could see where this thing was being mounted onto, but let's see. Recently the Gen 5 memories have been coming out, so maybe at one point we'll move to that. Now the reason for using these two M.2s, first of all, is I have them, and if I don't use it, it becomes a waste, of course. But the second reason was I was recently watching a video where a video editor for a big YouTuber, Jay's 2 Cents, they were building him a new PC, and they had him, I believe it was 2 M.2 drives, I could be wrong. But due to the new camera and footage they were using, they needed a significant amount of storage for the, so they had one M.2 for the operating system, which will be my idea for this. I decided some time ago to just go ahead and use one of these programs. So one of these will be for the operating system, potentially the programs as well. The other one will be designed. Okay. The other one will be used for current storage for videos I'm currently making. Unfortunately, there'll be a lot of read and write onto that one, so it may limit the life of that one. But it'll be a temporary thing. Okay, so manual, and I'm actually a little disappointed. There's no sticker in this one. But again, what this will allow is this will allow me to have one that I can go ahead, have the operating system, the programs on, giving that real quick, solid state program and running and speed. And then the other one will be used for editing footage and videos and stuff. And then after that, I'll have a larger storage drive, which I'll place into the case later on, which will allow me to go ahead and, after the video is made, I have the raw footage, to move that off the SSD to keep that room, and to put on a more reliable external that I can use for the memory as well. So I know that the SSDs are very, very reliable, but I know that whenever that they can die to being overused. I think I've been told that they can wear down quicker than mechanical drives can when it comes to being used consistently. So I'm just trying to have that that possibility and be aware of that. So they're cutting that whole side. Maybe I should have cut the other side. There's a much tinier label on there. So we'll go now and we will look at where to put this other one, and then we'll go ahead and add it as well. Alright guys, so I actually made a huge mistake. I forgot to remove the protective film off the first heat sink when I was looking to make sure I knew the proper of the two to put in next. There are 3 slots on here. I actually thought there were 4, but there are 3. The 4th one is taken up by the Wi-Fi module, which is by design, of course. But yeah, no, I about made a major mistake. I forgot to take the heatsink off, which would have made a big issue. So I removed that. I checked the manual to make sure I was putting the right location for the next one. Both of them are hidden under this plate at the bottom of the motherboard. So we'll go ahead and we'll remove that. Okay, so it looks like both of these are in the furthest, which is where I need it. There are protective films on the bottom of this as well, so we'll not make that mistake again, hopefully. From what I can understand, I believe this is the B side, which will be the one we need to do next. So heatsink 2. So according to the silk screen, this is the, I believe, the second one. This is the third one. That's at least what we're going to go by and what we are going to hope. Worst case, I use a slightly slower side as well. So we'll do the same as we did before. There are 3 standoff locations with a standoff. Make sure I'm correct. There is no standoff at one of the first 2 locations. So I do not have to worry about the, let's put this at a 30-degree angle, I believe. There we go. So it's lined up. Just make sure if you're using a longer one, there is no standoff at any of the smaller locations. I cannot remember the 3 sizes. The last one is a 2280, which is the current size that I'm using. And you want to make sure that the standoffs are not making contact with any part of the board itself, of the M.2, because then it can potentially short it out. I find it very amusing that the M.2 literally just sticks up in the air until the time at which you go to screw it down. Use this to start. I kind of wish I had one of those motorized I could put on really quick. I thought about buying one for this, but it was nowhere near the priority. Everything should be connected there now. Screwdriver is there. Another thing I would like to do, guys, I would like to potentially, after this is done and I'm working on my tech channel, I would like to make other videos about other tech. Really get this PC set up and my setup. Currently, my setup is this corner desk that I got off of Facebook Marketplace from somebody. And it's an old room, that's why it's purple. I've got an LED light. That's about the closest thing to custom in this room right now. But I intend to continue to do this, get it set up. And the LED actually reflects really well off of that purple, even though I will probably change that relatively soon in the decoration of the room and get that going. So now both M.2s are on. Now to continue with the motherboard. About half an hour into the recording, maybe close to the amount of footage I'm actually going to use as well, so not doing too bad. Put those down here. That is the manual. No, it is not. Where is the manual? It's right there, just in case I need it again. Do a lot of talking to myself for that. I apologize. Helps me keep straight. Now again, I'll mention Bluetooth. I have a 7.1 over-the-ear headphone surround sound headset for gaming, and I will probably use that a lot of the time when I'm doing my gaming and everything. But when I'm recording audio, it's going to be in mono or stereo that I'll have to, put on stereo. But for that reason, I'm just going to use these cheap $20 earbuds that I got for Christmas. I've not used them yet, but this will be what I use primarily for listening to my videos as I edit them, unless I begin to listen, find out they're crap, and then at which point I won't be using them. Okay, guys, so I've looked at everything. And hopefully I've got this down, know exactly what I'm doing. So what we are going to do is we are going to get another screwdriver. Make sure I'm very careful with this. And here's the Phillips head, and we're going to be taking out the bracket that's in here right now. Now, you have to be very careful. I applied a tiny bit of pressure just now to get this out. Unfortunately, the board, especially with the very, very small 0402 and 0603s, as I mentioned before, if you guys want to look those up online, they're extremely small capacitors, resistors, transistors, stuff like that on the boards. And there's actually some components potentially smaller than that on here. The smallest I ever messed with the 402s. But barely flexing the board has potential to actually break these solder points and break the components off, and potentially crack the components themselves. And this is something that normally you will not be able to see unless you put it under a microscope, which is something that I used to have to do on the regular. So we're going to take these brackets off. They are plastic, pretty good plastic, but they're plastic nonetheless. And then we're going to grab these smaller brackets. There are some larger ones that are inside the box that are actually attached to the box, which I'm not sure how well you can see from there. But we do have these two small ones in this miniature Ziploc bag. We're going to go ahead and remove those real quick. Place those here. Place those out the way. And then we're going to take these 4 plastic standoffs and these 4 screws. Now, they come in a little baggie that is sealed. The little baggie does have a small little rip hole to make it extremely easy to open. That's very good. I'm going to have a major mess to clean up after all this, but it will be worth it, hopefully. I will have this done. It'll be awesome, incredible, and I will have a PC by the end of the night to to work with. So, let's go ahead and see. So, we have the 4 plastic spacers in. The curve goes inward toward the PC. So, we're going to put that on here now with the little screw holes hanging up. We will take this here. Now, luckily, these are magnetic, not very strong magnets, but magnets nonetheless. So when I drop them like that, I can pick them right back up. And we'll go ahead and screw these plastic pieces down. Waiting to tighten them until I have everything on, of course. Of course, you can do one side then the other. You don't have to wait to tighten up all 4. Now, again, guys, the reason I went with the Noctua is they are one of the highest regarded when it comes to a lot of people online to performance for cost and just performance in general. They are incredible coolers. They go above and beyond when keeping things cool. They are normally quiet compared to what you would think looking at them, and they are all around just one of the best options. Now the fans, of course, if you take care of them, the fan type of coolers will last a whole lot longer than the AIOs. AIOs, you also have to worry about a potential leak at one time or another. Normally, if you put them in without a leak, they are fine. So that's done. Now for the two most, the two most unnerving points for me right now. First, I'm going to be a little nerdy here and take a picture of the information on the chip, just in case I ever want to look back at it. I have a light directly overhead that is LED and extremely bright, so it may be a little difficult to read this later. But we're going to take the thermal paste, and we are going to remove it from the package that we got. We're also going to go ahead and remove this fan internally. There are 2 brackets here. Let's see. So 8. So there are 2 clips. Just pull this clip out on each side. Causes a little more pressure than I thought it would. It doesn't do well when you're worried about breaking and trying to do it. I also recently, very, very recently, just before the video, clipped my fingernails, which may not have been the best option. So I need the screwdriver to help get underneath. And then also they happen to clip in and latch on. There we go. We have a massive fan there. And one thing that's really cool, guys, I was worried about this. I watch a lot of the YouTubers put this online and they have to reach deep down in there. But I do not have a long wall screwdrivers. Luckily, they have this Allen wrench type of design that is a Phillips head that will fit it. So what we're going to do now that we have this, we're going to take the thermal paste, and as the manual suggests for the AM5, we are going to take and put 1 dot in the very center, about the equivalency of a P. Like I said before, we're going to aim right on that 9. Okay. It's a little bit bigger than a P. Hopefully that's fine. I have heard that it is hard to do a little bit. It is hard to do too much and have to worry too much about it, but I am always going to be concerned about this PC. One day I might actually take this thing apart and make upgrades to it. But honestly, I'd rather leave this one as is, build my channel, and hopefully one day get to the point to where I can just build another one. So next we've got that. So we're going to go here, remove this plastic cover. Be very careful not to touch that. I need a microfiber cloth. Give me 1 second. There's a tiny bit of dust on this at the current moment. Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead now and try to mount this on. It's very interesting. I was wondering about this. These screws that are here are held on by springs, so you don't have to worry about those coming off. And they're actually kind of like female screws. They have a hole inside of them with threading inside to match the posts that are already there, so that's really awesome. So what we're going to do is very, very carefully, we're going to set this on. We'll go ahead and stand up. And it would be very hard to tell which ones they were. I don't even know at this point if I'd be able to tell, but let's go ahead for the most important. We want to check the fan for airflow. So here at the bottom, it shows that it would push air this way. So we're going to rotate this. Hopefully I'm putting it level. Seems to be level to me. Grabbing well on both sides. Yep. So that's done. So the next step, guys, is we're going to get this and put this inside the case. Now, we'll go ahead and apologize. At this point, I've done everything on the table. I know the views have not been the best visually to see it, but at this point, I do have to place it in the case, at which I will try to angle to where you guys can see properly, but it will be difficult to see, but I will do my best. So let's go ahead and move the screwdriver. We're going to be very gentle with the motherboard. Pro tip, do not handle a motherboard unless you have some type of ESD protection. The bag the motherboard came into is actually an ESD bag as well. There are two types of those. Some are those silver type of cases and some are actually pink. So the case that I went with is the Corsair 4000 D Airflow. I originally had another case as well when my build was originally going to be a Ryzen 5 2000 series and then potentially a Ryzen 7 2000 or 3000, because those came with a much smaller cooling fan that did really well for those chips. They did not get very hot. But the deciding factor was when I originally got the case, it actually came with 3 or 4 fans already installed. It was about a $35 case. It had really good reviews online for budget cases. But the unfortunate thing was, even though it had really good reviews, it was a budget, which was what I was working on at the time. Again, the Ryzen 7000 series, you're not going to be able to do that with this chip. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and take the Corsair Airflow here, and we're going to move it. Sorry, pants kind of feel a little bit there. We're going to move it from this table to this one. We're going to try not to damage anything, not to mess this up, and see if we can make this look semi-professional. Now we'll go ahead and move this here. Out loud. Now, it's not a very good thing to grab and pull by the bag. So it's not working very well. So we'll try to slide this out some. There we go. And there we have our new case. Now the back is here, the front is on the other side, so let's go ahead and rotate it carefully. Luckily the case is not that heavy. It is tempered glass on the other side, so we were trying to be careful with it. Pretty chunky manual there. So again, one of the reasons why the other case I had would not work was the lack of airflow options. There were openings on the front, but they were on the side of the front panel, which was not ideal. I thought the front panel was actually a mesh panel until I got it and checked. We do have, actually while we've got this underneath, we do have some mounting holes here for the inside for SSDs and some 3.5 hard drives, which I do have one of those. And then you have this filter here. It's not magnetic, but you can slide it across. That is for the CPU, of course. Then on the back, we have multiple areas here. It does come with an 80 millimeter fan? I believe it is. That we will be leaving there for now. The top is also, this case is a little wider than I thought it was. The top is mesh as well. This is a magnetic filter, which is awesome. I'll be able to remove that. It has tape across it. We have a power button, a reset button, a TRRS. I'll go and sit down. I realize I'm not on there. There's a TRRS, guys, connection on here. That is a 3.5 millimeter jack with the ground, the left and right channel, and the microphone channel as well. It'll have 4 points on the connection instead of the normal 3. I originally had issues with microphone set, mic not working with the headset, and I could not find anywhere on the internet as hard as I could find or try to find why it would work, and come to find out it was the type of connection between a TRS and a TRRF. You can look that up online now with that information, very easy to find. We also have a 2 yellow connections on top. I'm not sure why they are yellow. It may be called a Corsair, I'm sure. But one is a USB-C type and one's a USB-A type. I'm pretty sure that the A is a 3.1 or 3.2. I'll have to check. We'll get this plastic out of here. And on the front, again, I have a small table. I'm worried about it moving too much. We have the tempered glass as well. It is a tinted tempered glass. I actually like that with my first build because a lot of the options I did were budget related, of course. In the future, I would not mind going to an AIO with a display on there, maybe a couple displays on some Raspberry Pis inside to show some other stuff as well. The front is actually has a mesh panel inside as well to cover that. There are currently no fans in there, it looks like. I thought another fan came internally. So let's go ahead, open it up, and see what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and take the back panel off first. You guys, of course, will not be able to see that very well. The screws awesomely do not come off completely, so you don't have to worry about losing those. So we're going to slide this out, I think. Okay, so we're going to pop it off. Also, kind of like there's a yellow accent cable, kind of, and they already have zip ties in here for their cables. So all the cables are already zip tied down, and cable managed to your front ports. Now, one thing I will say, there is no 3.5 or 5.5, I think it is millimeter, 5.5 inch bay up on the top for CD drives. I know what you guys are thinking, why would you need a CD drive? And honestly, guys, I try to do a lot of home movie stuff. I try to make recordings of home movies and stuff, try to put them to where I can have them for a long time, forever hopefully, and then have a method of burning those for family members as well. But so a really cheap, good option is this, it's like a $20 CD drive that I got from years ago. I believe it's from Best Buy. They have them all over Amazon as well. I have 2 of those, and I actually think both of the ones I currently have are Amazon, and the one I had before, which was an old work one now, was from Best Buy. But they're $20 to $40, really good. So if you don't have that drive, that bay, and you want that for cooling, which is probably what you'll want, then that'll be real good to have. So okay, back panel's off. Let's go ahead and take off the front panel as well. Probably not the best idea to do this from this angle, but worst case, it falls. And I have a much, much, much better airflow. Not funny, but silver lining. And this is exactly why you shouldn't do from this angle, because it did not come straight off. There are points here where it had to swing off. I did not know that. I'm going to very carefully set this here on top of the other one. Hopefully it won't get scratched. And let's go ahead and get to it. Now, I think a lot of people go ahead and connect their... Okay, so there is a fan in the front as well. That is a 120, so both of these are 120s. I do not believe a 140 would fit in the back. There is space for 140s in the front. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm actually going to remove this for now. I'm going to replace this fan and 2 others in the front. I'm going to potentially place 2 in the top as well. I'm not really sure. I want to make sure that when I get done with this, I have a positive pressure. So I'm going to have to probably just load up with fans, hope for the best, and if it seems that I've got a negative, not a positive, when I start to see dust build up and stuff, I may make some changes. Next time I get a case, I'll probably get one to where it has potential for coming to the back and the front for more pressure. But I'm stalling. I'm excited. There's got to be some screws in here somewhere, possibly in the box. Not the foam. And there does not seem to be any for the motherboard in order to mount these. I'll go ahead and move that fan cable out of the way. I need to mount this CPU into the case, so to get it out of the way for now, I'll very carefully lift it. Try to set it inside. It is massive. It is incredibly a lot heavier. Of course, there's no surprise there. I do need to remove that cable, or move that cable. I did place it directly in the way. All it wants to do is fall right into where that needs to go. Okay, so there is one connection in the middle that will kind of hold it in place. This board is taking up a lot of the room in here, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So let's go ahead. Now I have to find these motherboard cables now. That I'm sure. It's probably, these are screws for M.2s. Looking back at it, probably. I do not think I need those. I hope I didn't screw that up. I believe the heatsink's supposed to hold that down. Be sure to let me know in the comments if that's royally screwed. Now they did give me 2 screws instead of 3. I do have some screws here which I believe are for the So I'm going to stop mumbling, guys. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at a couple manuals really fast. A little bit of movie magic again, so you guys won't have to sit here and watch me read them. And we're going to see if we can find exactly which of these screws I'm supposed to be using to make sure I don't screw this up. Okay, guys, so I spent the last, unfortunately, like 10 to 15 minutes like an idiot going through the boxes, trying to find the screws, saying, where can these screws be? I'm looking around, I'm glancing through here, I'm lifting the case, I cannot find these screws. And I'm like, I'm looking through this port, I'm looking everywhere, where can they be? I'm like, oh man, I know I'm not the guy who got left without them. So I decide to take the motherboard out, set it down because I don't want it falling. I flip it over, I glance, I see nothing. I look closer and I see 2 things in the hard drive bay. First, I see this, which is there to prevent the hard drive bay from bouncing around. bouncing around during shipping and causing issues. And second, I see this slid into the hard drive bay. So if you guys are having a hard time with the Corsair 4000, I expected them to be a little baggy in here or in the box or in the foam, but no, it's in the hard drive bay, actually in the, so what you're going to do is slide that out. They actually screw this thing down. They double-sided sticky. Got to be double-sided sticky, right? So, it's 2 screw points toward the front and the back that are holding it in. Be very careful not to damage it. It's, of course, these same parts that will hold your 3.5-inch hard drive. And we're going to go ahead and slide all this out. We have some cable management, zip ties, some more zip ties, some of the foam ones and regular ones. And then we have your screws. Now, some of these are thumb screws, and some of them are regular screws for mounting other things. Standoffs, a bunch of replacements, and M.2s, I'm sure that's what the other ones are for. And I'm sure that these are the ones that are going to mount for the motherboard as well. I do not see any that are a nut type to hold in that middle section. And I'm pretty sure that these smaller ones will be the ones that go, not those larger ones. There are some that seem to be more like a plastic screw type of thing. Oh, there it is. Now I'm going to go ahead, I should probably check, but I'm actually running a little short on time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around, drop a few screws on the floor, of course, and try to make sure I hit all the important areas to actually mount this thing down. Alright guys, so I've now got the motherboard completely mounted. There was no additional standoffs. There's actually extra ones that came with the motherboard. And one of these screw locations on here did not have a mount behind it, but there was a place for it, marked AN, I believe, on the case. So I took one of the additional standoffs, I put it there because even though there's plenty of stability there, in the future I will have a graphics card here. I do not believe it'll be overly heavy, having one of the smaller ones, but this is around the area that will be where the graphics card is, and I don't want the board to flex at all due to the graphics card. So now we have this in. I'm going to, I've already decided, guys, what I'm going to do when it comes to the cable management. I may do more of a montage type of thing, which I doubt you guys really like. You can't really see what I'm working on. But since you can't see the actual cable management, I believe when I get to that portion of the video, I'm just going to skip that for you guys. Go to the point where I turn the PC on, and then hopefully it will work. So next, let's go ahead and get to the power supply. Now, the power supply that I chose was a Corsair as well. Now, the reason for the Corsair, originally I was going to get an EVGA, and there was a couple other brands I was looking at, but I did not want to go with some of the lesser known third parties. Being my first PC, and I'll elaborate on that in a moment, but being my first PC and my first build, I wanted to remove any guesswork. And now I would love to, in about a year or so, guys, I would love to make a budget PC. All third-party parts, some that are well known, but some of the cheaper budget ones, and just to see how it compares. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open this up. Now there are 3 reasons I ended up with this power supply. Number 1, it is a Corsair, a well-known brand. It has a 10-year warranty from the manufacturer, and if it holds up for those 10 years, which I believe it should, then I'll be really well off. It'll handle the next few builds I do, again, if I do upgrades or if I have to change my power supply. And the second reason I got it is the primary reason is it is an ATX 3.0 certified. Now, what that means is that it is PCIe Gen 5 compatible, and it is the most important thing though is the graphics cards. For those of you who know the new graphics cards, it is a fully modular power supply. I have all the cables here, but for the graphics cards that have been coming out, zip ties with the NVIDIA 4000 series, they now have this one connection that can handle several hundred watts alone. Now, I cannot remember the wattage. I do know for like the 4090, which is around a 450 watt card, maybe larger, this one connection is supposed to hold that wattage. And for that reason, they have this special cable. That is the main reason I went with the ATX 3.0. With the 4060, I should not need that special 3.0 connector, but I want that ability to upgrade in the future. So when it came to the well-known brands, the cheapest one available was a Corsair that had the 3.0 at the time of shopping. Anything else was out of stock if it was lower, or it was one of those lesser known brands. And for the third reason, the most interesting reason of why I did this, a lot of people will tell you online, a lot of videos will tell you that whenever you put the case in or the connection in, go ahead, place all your cables on, plug them in, and then run the cables through, because it'll be too difficult in order to plug that in. Well, this is the Corsair 850, was it E? Was it E? 850X, RM850X, and it is a shift power supply. Now, some of you might be going, what is shift? Shift is this here. The connections are actually on the side of the power supply itself instead of on the front, which makes it incredibly a lot easier to plug in and unplug. Now, hopefully, I will have the minimum distance required. Again, for those of you who may have been following some of the things with the RTX 40 series, there were lots of issues with these cables potentially melting. And part of this melting process, that's probably not good for all that weight to pull down. I do apologize. But part of the melting process, part of that issue, was due to the fact that the screws, but part of the issue was that the cable was being bent for that 3.0 connector, that new special connector. So if that's still an issue, I may need to actually go ahead and I may not have the clearance here, but I'm sure that I will. And where is that connector? I will have to check the manual to verify. I thought I'd be able to recognize it right away, but being my first PC build, evidently not. So we're going to go ahead and do something highly not recommended and hang the front part of this case off. I may actually place it back here, which is probably one of the dumbest things I've done in a while. At which time, let's go ahead, and the screws should be in this pack as well. I would highly expect the same screws that handle the motherboard to handle the power supply. Go ahead and line these holes up. Okay, I was confused. In this top corner is actually two screws in the same corner that are threaded, and I wanted to make sure the one that I was going into was threaded as well. All 5 screws should not be necessary due to the metal case of the power supply. Any of these screws, one of them should ground the power supply to the case, but I may go ahead and make all 5 screws just because might as well go overboard with it. To be honest with you guys, I'm just so inexperienced here. I do not want to make that one little fact that I did not know screw up the entire build. Unfortunately, I will also say that it is coming to a time that I may have to pause this video. Again, it won't lot much of a difference for you guys. It'll definitely be a lot darker out of that window when the recording starts back taking place, but we'll just have to, that'll be in a little bit. I do not have enough room to slide my fingers through there. I started to. With my large fingers, I started to apply pressure to the pins, and I bent way too many pins in my day to want to fix anymore. Or even worse, to break them. I was originally a lab technician for the process of about 10 years, working with quality control, anything from quality to certification to development and everything in between. Wore a lot of many hats all at the same time. Those were not progression between one job position to another, depending on the stage of the product I was working on, depending on the hat that I wore. So I've done many certification and quality testing on products, including power supplies, over the years, though I have not done anything in that fashion in about 3. Now, I do not know where this thing's going to mount currently, guys. I will probably temporarily mount it on my desk as a method of showing it off. A badge of honor, finally completing the build. This is something that I've been thinking about for about 4 or 5 years now, and just never had the opportunity until over these last few months. And again, I went with the method of purchasing parts at a cheap point when they would go on sale. But all I noticed was the parts that I bought previously, majority of them, well, not majority, but the memory, again, the DIMMs, would no longer work. And then the case also would not work, so I had to replace them both. I really hope I'm not bending this power supply. It does not seem to be wanting to screw in very well. Okay, I just needed something with a little more behind it to grab on. This Corsair screwdriver is actually, Noctua did this. But this Noctua screwdriver is actually really useful. Now, I may be cross-threading a couple things. Hopefully not. But again, I do not intend to necessarily take this back out. And even though I have all 4 corners, again, there is a 5th one that is there for some reason. Now, what makes the most sense to me, guys, is you're potentially grounding something else to this, and then you would potentially put a ring terminal, if you ever see a green wire hanging off of something and screwed in somewhere, that's them making sure that is a ground wire that is going from a ground that they know works properly and is connected very well to a ground, to something that either isn't or they're not very sure about. Normally it is and isn't, because they normally don't do a lot of guesswork in engineering electronics on this type of stuff. That is all tried and true, figured out, and a lot of times it is through trial and error, and sometimes very expensive errors. Now, I do have a bunch of zip ties. Some are Velcro, some are ones that I had for years, some are those that I bought to help with cable management for my desk. I also have ASRock and Corsair, so I have plenty of cables now. Again, let's go ahead, guys. I'm going to go ahead and lay this back down, install the fans now that we have the power supply in, and then I will connect the hard drive, and then I'll work on cable management, and then we will try to get this thing up and running. Okay, guys, so I believe I have everything connected at the moment. I really hope so. At this point, I'm just overly nervous. In a few seconds, we're going to see how badly this thing fails or how spectacular it is. So you guys can see it. I'm going to try to rotate it all the way around so you guys can see if it sparks or not. Hopefully not. Also, I want you guys to be able to see if the fans come on LED-wise. Now, as you guys saw, it is nowhere near cable managed. Also, I've yet to put my Elgato 4K Pro in, 4K 60 Pro in yet. The reason for that was I realized that the computer was ready to run if it's correct. And yeah, pretty much it's just kind of a concept of, is it going to work or is it not going to work? We'll see if it posts here. Real quick, go ahead and connect my keyboard and mouse to it. If everything goes well, then we should see a working computer. I'll go ahead and to look at that. I will go ahead next and make sure that I have everything cleaned up, finish the video that way. Looking for my mouse. I must be really confident this is actually going to work properly. There's my mouse. Now guys, again, this would be just awesome and amazing if this thing works. If not, this is going to be extremely depressing. Also know guys that the board does not come with a display output. It only comes with 2 HDMIs. I'm sorry, 1 HDMI for the onboard graphics for this CPU. So let's go ahead, see how this works. I'm really nervous. Cross my fingers, close my eyes, pray for it. Okay, it's turning. We got some lights going. Okay, real quick, I don't know if I can turn this right back off. I just realized the external fan is not running. That should not be a problem, I hope. We should be okay with that for now, with the side being open. Once I get this running, it is resetting. Again, I gotta plug this case fan in. I'll go ahead and grab the manual, see where I need to plug that in at. Should be one right by. And as you can see, it's supposed to be learning, memory learning, is what I'm pretty sure it's called. CPU fan connector, it's not CPU fan. Keyboard just reset. ASRock. Yes. Yes. Okay, guys. Yes. Okay. So it is working. That was really quick. I'm not going to put my hands anywhere. Everything seems to be running. The fans are extremely quiet. They are barely running at all. Again, not really needing those at the moment. The RGB looks awesome. So it does see the RAM, both sticks of RAM. We have 32 gigs of memory. It says 4800 megahertz. I'll have to go in and change that to the 6000 megahertz. It sees that the AMD Ryzen 9 7900. It sees the board type. Yeah, guys, we got it. I'm going to have to look through some videos real quick, see how to properly set this up. I've got my Windows on a USB. I'm ready to go. Got some buddies waiting to play games for a couple hours, so I'm going to have to try to pull myself away from this to play that with them. But I'm going to watch some videos. I'm going to see how the mouse is working. Awesome. I'm going to see what I need to do about getting these settings proper, get them set up right, and I'll probably finish this up tomorrow. I won't film it because I'm just going to be walking myself through a bunch of videos. I don't know much about it yet. Once Windows gets up, I know how to set that up, but in the BIOS and everything, I'm just going to have to look at it. Thanks for watching. If you made it through this far, I can't believe I got it to actually work properly. My first build. This is actually my first PC, guys. I've owned PCs in the past. They were always hand-me-downs, friends, relatives, multiple years old. They just did not want any more. Last few computers have been laptops that were work computers that I was allowed to bring home and use to an extent as a personal computer. But now I have this computer. It is mine. I finally have one for myself, and it's one that I built. I'm loving the RGB on the front. I can see it in the camera. It looks pretty good right here too. I cannot wait to get this cleaned up, get it set up, and show you guys how it looks. And once we can get a GPU in there, guys, and really get it running, I can't wait to show you guys how well it works on games. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in part 2 of the video or any future video as well. Please subscribe. I love you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.